Welcome back. Indeed, you're watching Kutv Primetime News, and before we went for a break, I promised you we would be talking about leadership in the world today. And be sure to stream if you're in a place, or if you need to inform anyone who would be wanting to watch this particular interview right now, to stream on our Facebook page at KUTV Kenya. Now, Kevin Cruz, a contributor in Forbes website, defines leadership as a process of social influence which maximizes the efforts of others towards the achievement of a goal. As things keep changing, among them human interaction and leadership succession, questions have come up regarding how leadership has changed, whether it should change in the first place, and how adequacy or inadequacy of knowledge on leadership has affected the leaders, those being led, and leadership in general. Yes, we have leaders around who have social influence. Are they maximizing the efforts of those they lead? Are we achieving a goal that helps us to move to greater heights together? Therefore, there is need to keep reminding ourselves what leadership is and what leadership is not. Join us now as we welcome Gitonga Mutani, a leadership coach, to take us through this. Karibu sana Bwana Mutani.
I lost it somewhere.
It's all right. Karibu sana to the interview. We're just getting started. Now, before we go very far, let us define leadership. What would you define leadership as?
Thank you for having me, Martin. And for me, leadership is getting things done, of course, to people. Typically, that's what I define leadership as: getting things done to people.
All right. And as we continue to talk about leadership, can you point us to some of the things that leadership is not?
Thank you. Well, one of the greatest leadership coaches we have around is PLO, Professor PLO Lumumba, and he says that leaders should avoid the 5 P's, the pitfalls. That is the allure of power, the allure of property, the allure of pride, the allure of pomposity, and of course he calls them the 5 P's of the 5 P's to avoid, and of course the allure of prestige. So that is what leadership is not about. It's not about power, it's not about prestige, it's not about property, it's not about pomposity, and it's not about pride.
All right. Now, as you continue to talk about leadership and knowing what leadership is in a nutshell, now many people desire leadership. When you move in the streets, people are talking in the streets, oh, when I get to this point, I want to become a leader in this particular field. When I get to this age, I want to become a leader in this particular point. And maybe if you would also tell us, if you probably be able to share your story and your aspirations with us, you probably want to get into some level of leadership in one stage or the other of your life. Now, many people don't still understand the simplicities and complexities that come with leadership. As you continue to understand leadership, can you shed more light on the levels probably that we have on leadership, or what levels would you describe as leadership levels in our society today?
Thank you, Martin. Since I'm a student of John Maxwell, I want to define the levels of leadership by what makes people follow you. So, and he says that the lowest level of leadership is what we call the position level, or you're a leader because you're appointed to a certain position. And at this level, the leader uses threats or the position to maintain leadership. If you're a boss and people don't want to follow you, you threaten them that you'll fire them. The second level, which we call the permission level, is where the people have given you some power or authority to be their leader. And at this level, the people follow you because there's that relationship that you have. They have given you the power to be their leader. Then we get to what we call the production level, which is result-based. In this place, people follow you because you have a track record and they have seen your result. Then we get to what we call the reproduction level of leadership. This is where now the leader comes in the business of making other leaders in the institution or where they are. And this is with the understanding that if you have more leaders, even your work becomes easier because every department can run semi-autonomous. Then the fifth and the last level is what we call the pinnacle level of leadership or the respect level. And this is the level where people follow you because of what you stand for. People know that when you talk about Martin, these are the values you stand for. And this is the person who has invested his lifetime in a certain set of values. And those are the levels according to Maxwell, and that's as we think the levels of management.
All right. I think that is a very good summary. But now let's move over to where the leadership that really touches on the masses. And when I talk about that, and when that is actually addressed from time to time, people think about political leadership, where a politician appears and throws in some money or throws in some words that really excite people and then go away. We used to that kind of leadership that is not one-on-one, based on the one who is led and the one who is being led. I don't know, maybe you tell us, have we lost touch with the coaching kind of leadership, and what is the place of the coaching kind of leadership even as we continue to mentor other generations that are to come?
Okay, thank you, Martin. What I think we lost is the real definition of politics. Because politics, the way I define it, is the use of power in division of resources. So where you have 500 shillings in your house and you are deciding between buying 5 kilos of sugar and no rice, or 2 kilos of sugar and 3 kgs of rice, that is politics. What we got used to as Africans or in the African setup through this politics is a situation where a few people come and convince us to give them power to negotiate for us, and then they go and take personal interest there. In that aspect, I will want to remind people that whenever you're choosing leaders, these days of course, there are so many other leadership types, but nowadays we are talking of transactional leaders and transformational leaders. Anytime you get into the street and somebody is giving you 100 pop, know that money is paid somewhere. So this person gets the office and they forget because they actually paid for your book. But now we need to focus on transformational leaders. If you get somebody by what they stand for, what their mind is, and the ideas that they bring forward, this is a person who can transform the community from wherever we are to the next level. If we keep on focusing on the other kind of leaders, the ones we call politicians, these are transactions. And for every shilling that they give, they expect that they will reap in return. So it is not that we forgot about leadership. It is we, the led or the followers, who forgot what we need to look for in leaders.
All right, and as we continue to talk about this, we must agree that the masses are still having a hard time balancing or just getting to know and distinguish between leaders, whether they are transactional or transformational. And as we speak about that, when we look at the leaders who govern our spaces, and case in point, let's look at some of the nations and the situation that we have in the COVID-19, where a country like Brazil, where the president, Mr. Bolsonaro, is facing a crisis right now. He's been, he's being probed by the Senate for, early in the times of COVID-19, refusing to follow the COVID-19 measures, especially the lockdown measures, and the country ended up being hit hard by the COVID-19. And as opposed to here, for example, here in the country where lockdown measures have been put, and the country now has gone into facing economic depression. Where is the place of balancing in leadership? Because when I look at these two scenarios, you either choose this or this. And when you choose to protect people from economic depression, you end up killing people. And when you save the lives of people, they end up in depression. And that brings a crisis in leadership. Where is the place of leadership in solving some of these crises? And what is the best approach in the long term?
Thank you, Martin. Now, there is in leadership, there is what we call situational leadership. Now, the case of Brazil, where sadly I think around 14 million have been infected and 300,000 plus have passed due to COVID complications. And closer home, we also had a country like our neighbor Tanzania. And then we have our country, Kenya, and what the measures we are taking. Now, every leader has a choice, and like they say, choices have consequences. And in this case, like in the lockdown cases, you have a choice where you expose your citizens to economic depression, or you or things like hunger and all that, and people balance according to the resources. Like I said, politics is the use of power in balancing the scarce resources you have. So some leaders will look at what they have and say, even if I put a lockdown, where will I get money to feed these people? Others will say, if we zone like whatever we've done in Kenya, we think these people will not be affected to a very big level, and they will survive, and probably the rate of the disease will go down. So for me, I don't really get into the business of judging these leaders without actually knowing what the facts they have at hand. Because like in our case, our president probably consulted and was told, if we zone these people here, the economic activity will sustain them for some period. But in another place, the president, with his advisors, felt that better way would be to allow people to continue their life and also give them a few um, behavioral minimums that they should adhere. Now, the results will speak different. There are some people there are some countries will be more affected using the same strategies that other nations have used. There are nations that will be affected in an adverse way because again, when you sit in that position of power, if you have the right advisors and you follow what they tell you, the outcome would be different. But there is nothing as dangerous as not making that.
All right, and these decisions that are made are meant to, as you say, protect people from one thing or the other. Now, as we talk about protection, the leader is always looked to and looked up to as a shield. Do we have particular points where the leader is supposed to be shielded by the people that they lead? And if so, how and why?
It's a famous story of that king who was naked and people are not telling him he was naked until a brave young boy told him, excuse me, Mr. King, you're naked. Now, sometimes sometimes leadership brings a lot of elements to the leader, and this person, if this person is not protected from the realities of the ground, this person might be making the wrong decision. What do I mean by this? If we use our leaders, for example, the political one, when you elect this person, you tell him, probably a member of parliament, go to Nairobi to represent us. This person needs an office that is with the electorate, where they'll be telling now, today your people left hungry. Today there's a certain road that was swept away by the rain. But with the lack of this, if the system does not have this check and balances, the leader will be up there, quote unquote, naked without somebody telling them that they are naked. Because the strength of a leader is with the followers. But if the followers are what the Greeks call idiots, the ones who don't care, this person will live without thinking that he is the best. However, there could be something that they are not doing. So this is where we need advisors and leaders. This is where we need oversight or the so-called watchdog. Because anytime you go astray and you have an advisor or you have the oversight team, they will be able to tell you now, here, come back. If you are the CEO of an organization and your board is telling you, I don't think you are going the right way, let's refocus and get back to track. So the only way to have this leader shielded is to have advisors or a group of people who can do oversight on the leadership role.
All right. And as we speak about checks and balances, accountability is key in such spaces as ours where we have democratic kind of leadership style that we have in this particular country and many other countries in the world. Hitting close home, how would you rate the accountability of leaders, especially political leaders here in the country, on a scale of 1 to 10? And why?
Now, our country is blessed with some of the best leaders in the world. It is also unblessed with some of the worst. And I'd really not blame them as such, because our voting patterns or our selection patterns also have a lot to play, because when, like I said there before, when you elect a leader on the basis of the amount of money or the amount of alcohol they can buy, this person will only be accountable to the money he paid you to vote for. So many of the so-called non-accountable leaders know that they got into office in ways that are not what we call the virtual way. So when we're talking about accountability, we also need to talk about the people who give us leaders the power to govern. Because if, like the Greeks say, they categorize people as idiots, tribesmen, or citizens. So if you voted on behalf on the basis of tribe, this person will only be accountable to his tribesmen, and tribe could include religion, could include any family group that we have. But if we elect the so-called citizens, according to the Greek, this is a person who cares and who does what is right. So our leaders are on a scale of 0 to 10. Some of them are close to a 6, others are close to a 1 or a 0.5. But in the whole mix, we as the people who are being led have a lot to play. If we need accountable leaders, we also need to vote accountable.
And I'm glad you have mentioned voting and selection as part of those processes that really give us leaders that do not fit the positions that we have open. Now, voting, yes, the masses come in vote. Some of the leadership positions, like the ongoing battle and a rising of questions in in the selection of the Chief Justice. We have seen the nomination of Judge Martha Koome, and that has raised a lot of questions because that has not been done according to the due process that was put or that was laid on the ground. And that raising questions in itself is one thing, apart from the other leaders who masses go and vote for. Putting this particular situation in perspective, how do we ensure, and even being reminded of this particular office in the former times of the just exited Chief Justice, former Chief Justice David Maraga, who kept on having outcries that his body, his arm of government had been curtailed in terms of its freedoms and powers. How do this balance, and how can we ensure that there is maximum accountability in leadership, specifically in this country that we sit in today?
What you do not send a soldier to the battle, you give them a gun without bullets. If you're choosing an army, if you're selecting an army, you get the soldiers, you give them propaganda, then you give them the food. Without ammunition, you do not have an army. You just have a group of people who are going out there to destroy. In this country, I want to retaliate that we need systems and we need institutionalized leadership, because if an organization is known by the name of the leader, if an organization is known, it operates around a personality. The moment that personality leaves, the institution will fail. So we need to come to a point where we have institutions that we respect, and those institutions are run by systems. Tomorrow, if the current nominee gets through, she will be the CP. But after 4 years, somebody else will become a king. If the Supreme Court is surrounded Justice Maraga, today that is gone, the institution will be collapsed. So in Kenya and in Africa, what we really need to focus on is to make sure our systems work and that these systems are in institutions, not personalities. Let's remove personalities from our institutions. Let's remove the names of people from our system. Then this system can run whether Mutani is our leading, whether Mutegi is our leading, whether anybody from any corner of this country is leading. Let's focus on building institutions and systems. That is the only way then we can be able to say 10 years down the line, this institution will be performing as good as it is, or even better than it is.
All right. Thank you so much, Bwana Gitonga Mutani, for joining us today and giving us that eye-opening perspective on leadership.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now we take a short break right here on KTV Primetime News. I believe you have learned something new, or you have been reminded of what really leadership is. And if you do have any questions on leadership or any other topic, feel free to talk to us at KTV Kenya. That's where you can find us on all social media platforms. You can also find us on our website for more information at www.kutv.co.ke. Now take a short break. We'll be back with more. Don't go anywhere.